I will say, though, I think the hardest part of today, well, I say hardest part, but it's just crazy because I don't know if you watch baseball or whatever, but
Yeah.
The Mariners played at 12 o'clock today, 12:10 or whatever. So
Hmm.
the game was happening this afternoon. And so I was listening to it and I had it up on my screen and whatnot. And I had to go to practice and I was getting updates on my phone as I was at practice. And, it was just one of those things like they threw a no hitter against the Mariners. So I was like, geez. So to the point of this episode, you know, have fun with it. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, man, we just got no hit by the Orioles, like at home. Like this is rough, man.
What is going on? Thanks for tuning in again to Real Talk by Our Stories, Your Legacy. And we are back again with another episode of a fire round where we discuss whatever is hot or trending this week. So it could be literally anything because, as humans, we always get inspired to discuss any and everything that comes our way. And so these topics are usually inspired by our thoughts that we discovered this week or things that we all just kind of came together and wanted to talk about. So, an intro to today's episode. As you know from our previous episode, video games are a big hobby for most of us, especially in our own community. It has its own community, and especially here in Our Stories, Your Legacy, we talk about it often. I mean, you hear it from our Rona series, and just ways that video games in general can have a huge impact on people's lives, whether it frees us virtually from the stresses of the pandemic, or we treat it like a profession. Video games are all around us to enjoy in some form or another, right? So in this episode, we're going to have a quick discussion on sports video games. See a combination of both video games that we usually talk about in the past and a combination of sports. Sports video games and how we may prefer it sometimes to physically playing the actual sports or vice versa. And as always, before we begin, we're going to do a quick check-in around the table and see who is all here today. So besides myself, my brother from another mother, Tyler, is with me today. How's it going? How's your day going so far, man?
It's going well, man. Going well. I know we're recording on a different day today. Normally we would talk about how it's Monday and all that stuff, but
Right.
Recording on a different day today. It's Wednesday. I just got back from practice, as you can see by my attire for those who are watching. And then we went to support our female colleagues over at the high school. They have their fast pitch game. It's their final one of the season, so kind of like a senior day kind of thing. And they were playing against my alma mater. So it was a little weird, actually, because it was kind of like, oh, we're out here to support our seniors for the team or the school that I coach for, but we're playing my alma mater. So I'm like, who do I cheer for? So it's kind of a weird situation because I'm like, all right, yeah, go team, but also I went to that school, so go to that team, and I also know the coach on that other team, so it's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird situation. Haven't really been in that situation before where I'm coaching again, or like I wasn't coaching, but school I'm coaching for is playing my former school. So it was a little weird.
Right. Messing with your pride a little bit.
A little bit. So yeah. little different, a little weird. Today was super muggy also, like practice and being out in that weather it was brutal. It was just super muggy. It's like 68 degrees, but like humidity is like 80%. So it feels like it's like 75. We were just standing there and it's like starting to sweat and you're like, oh, gross.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into it, man. It's just us today. So I think it's going to be a great discussion as always. Let's hop right into it. All right. And so we are going to jump right into it. I'll leave this starting with you, Tyler. So first question, do you play sports video games? Also, what sports video games, if you do play, what sports video games do you prefer the most?
Yeah. So I do play sports video games. It is actually one of the video games that I probably play the most or the most consistently. Um, as the years have gone on, obviously I play games like, role playing and all the story modes and all those things, RPGs, MMORPGs, all those things. But as we've kind of seen and learned as we've gotten a little bit older, the video games nowadays, at least, a lot of them that are going to more of the battle royale type of gameplay. Even Call of Duty series, like, there's the version of like, where's the battle royale, last team standing, last man standing. So I'm not necessarily as competitive. If you've listened to any of our episodes in the past, I used to be a competitive gamer with Halo. So lots of first person shooters and all that stuff. But I think as things have continued to, grow in that industry, and a lot of things are more battle royale type of things, or things like Valorant, where, a lot of things are moving to PC, any of the major games or major league gaming kind of type of things where lots of tournaments happen. I've kind of seen myself away from that scene just because it does get a little bit more competitive. There's a lot more things that are happening. I think the furthest I started, or I really stopped at, was mostly Fortnite. I just couldn't keep up with all the building and stuff. It just wasn't my type. I like more of a run and gun type of shooting type of thing. So yeah. So that being said, as those games come and go, I think most consistently I played sports games. And I know you mentioned like, which games do you play? I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to sports games. So I play like Madden and 2K for like basketball and that kind of stuff, and then MLB The Show. I play that for baseball. Am excited about the new NCAA football game coming back. That was the game that we played a lot on the original Xbox and all that stuff. So that'll be fun to see. But as far as the games go, there's so many different variants of sports games now. I would even consider, I don't know if you would consider it, but it's something that you play, or we have played together, as Rocket League.
Right. I was thinking of that.
Yeah, you could consider that technically sports.
Right.
Soccer with cars. But, so I definitely play games. Pretty much all of the sports games, if you can think about it. All right. I won't say all of them, but they're whatever is out, I typically play. So, FIFA for soccer,
Yeah,
Madden for football, FIFA. The Show for baseball, and then usually 2K for basketball, PGA for golf. I don't play that one as much anymore, but yeah, I would say consistently, I would probably say MLB The Show is the game, and FIFA are the two games that I usually buy the new one every year. Madden, I used to do that. I don't do that very often anymore. I think the last Madden that I have is 19, maybe. I think 21 is what's happening now.
Yeah.
I think I got 19 or 18 for free. So I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, I don't have to upgrade to the next one. But,
right.
It's one of those things. Madden, it's like mostly all they change most of the years are graphics anyways. It's like,
right.
It's like, oh, we've changed the graphics to be more realistic. I'm like, all right, so you've added like more beads of sweat to the person that you can see. So it's kind of funny how that works out. So I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah, no, same here, man. I mean, for most of the listeners, especially from our previous gaming episodes, know that I'm not a big gamer, and cat's out of the bag. One of the biggest reasons why I'm not a big gamer is a lot of those first person shooting games. I have a lot of I get a lot of motion sickness from it. So, I can't really play it for long. The lights get to me, or whatever it is, the motion, the awkward motion gets to me. I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. I try to figure out a cure. So, I know there's Reddit forums out there with people who get the same, thing as me. But in terms of video games, I mean, I don't have the latest and greatest systems. Funny thing, I still have a 360 that I sometimes use as a really bad quality DVD player. But I still play some old Madden, some old FIFA, some old 2K games. Those are pretty much my top three favorite sports. And it makes sense that I play them because those are my three favorite sports to actually watch or play in real life. And so, it kind of leads to my follow-up question. And Tyler, I kind of want to pick your brain on this. Why are we fascinated with sports video games when, we are already getting enough of it on TV? We could just get outside and play it. But what is it about playing sports video games? And let me hear your take on that. And then this kind of segues into our final question of the night.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that for me at least, it's just something to get me further into that sport or whatever it is, or like, I don't know, just for instance, say that, you're a fan of a team that doesn't do that well. Looking at you, Mariners baseball, it's been since 2001 since the Mariners went to the playoffs. So there's a little bit of me, a little part of me that would love to see that. And sometimes the only way that I can really enjoy the idea or the dream of my favorite baseball team going and making the playoffs and potentially winning a World Series is in a video game. Just plain and simple. It's also one of those things too that I know over the years, like, I've played a lot of sports growing up. I know the sports. I'm very knowledgeable on most sports, but there are some things that, even, if you've played the sport a lot, you kind of miss certain things. So like playing the games, you're just like, oh, I didn't even know that rule existed, kind of thing. Yeah, because there's just like very small rules, or like if someone's playing like, I don't know, FIFA, for instance, and most people don't necessarily understand the offsides rule. I know it's probably the most confusing rule for any of the sports. But I kind of, once you get into it and you really go in there, and I know FIFA kind of explains it too. So then it's like, oh, all right, well, that makes sense. But yeah, if you try to explain to someone, they're just like, I still don't understand. I still don't follow you. I'm like, literally just watch the back line, watch that judge. Like if the player anyways, I'm not going to get into that too much, digress a little.
Right.
But I think that's, if you're trying to explain it to somebody, it's a little different. So for me, I think it's just kind of living out like certain fantasies that you may not see in real life, which also goes to like the custom player that you can play. So in some things it's called, my player, or in like MLB The Show, it's called Road to the Show, where you have your own player that you control and you pick whatever position you want to play. This is most games. Football, baseball, whatever, you can play. If you're in a baseball game, you can choose like, I want to be catcher, pitcher, first, second, third, short, outfield, whatever it might be. And then you kind of get to work your way up through like the minor league system and then make it to the major leagues or professional. And, then you get to play on whatever team drafts you. I know in recent years, some of these games allow you to choose what team you play on. So it's kind of cool because then you live your fantasy a little bit to where like you like personally like, hey, I wasn't good enough to make the major leagues in real life, so now I can play as myself in the video game on a sport team that I enjoy watching. So it's one of those things. I think it's fun. You kind of live out your dreams or fantasies or whatever that might be. Like, my team sucks, so I'm gonna make them win in a video game. It looks cool, or I can control my player. My personal customizable player to play on whatever team, or if I get drafted by a certain team, I'll try to help them win, and then one of those things, move to different teams throughout the year so you can kind of play in different cities. It's kind of cool. And I know you've talked about this before too, like, when you casually play, like 2K or whatever games, like you might put it on the easiest difficulty for like your custom player type of thing. But teach their own. Like you can either play at a hard difficulty where you feel like you're challenged, or like if that's kind of like what you're doing and that's kind of your style and you want to like have fun with it, put it on like beginner mode or easy or whatever, normal mode or whatever, and just rake or just go out and destroy other teams.
Right.
Like I don't know, it's just one of those things. It's fun. It's however you have the fun. Like if you're not supposed to be whatever. I know, like if you say stream on Twitch or post like videos on YouTube or anything like that, you'll have a lot of people that comment on it and be like, oh, why don't you play on a harder difficulty? Why are you like sandbagging it? And da, 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 da. It's like, it's because how I enjoy playing the game, and I enjoy doing that. I'm not like a super try hard where I need to play on the hardest difficulty imaginable to do that. Like, yeah, sure. Right. If I want a challenge, but sometimes I don't want that. Sometimes I just scale it back and just play because I want to see myself do well. If it's more like, if it's on the hardest difficulty, I'm not going to do well. I'm just going to get frustrated with the game. If I wanted to get frustrated with the game, I would go to play Call of Duty or, any of the competitive online games. Like if I want to get frustrated, like I'll play that game. Like sports, for me at least, like sports, like if you want to get competitive, go online and play. I don't need to put the difficulty on the highest and play computers and get my butt whooped by a computer.
Right.
I just want to have fun with it. If I want to train myself to get better at the game, to then go play online against other real people, then sure, I'll do that. But, to each their own on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, to sum it up, you hit it on the head. Why I play sports video game and why I assume a lot of people would play it too. Besides just enjoying the sport itself, and it's kind of the fantasy of imagining your sports team or player winning a championship, right? Like, or just excelling, or maybe I remember there was like a NBA 2K. I think it was the first one that had Michael Jordan on it. I think it was like 2K11 or something like that. I don't know. But it was like, because I remember there was scenarios like you could relive, one of Michael Jordan's like greatest moments, game moments, and so you could relive that scenario, or you have a hero like Allen Iverson, who is a badass in real life and a badass in the game that never won a championship, and so you could kind of like do a what if scenario and play on an easy level or play with him to lead a team to a championship, Philly to their championship, or like you said, creating a player and then just kind of like living vicariously through them, because we all have these fantasy scenarios. What if we were the next LeBron James, just dominating, I don't know, maybe in NCAA basketball, just a LeBron James type in his NBA prime playing in college. How dope would that be, just dominating everybody? But yeah, it's so it's fun that way. It's kind of just us like mentally de-stressing and just kind of like going into a virtual world. It's probably the same way play other games. So thanks for that, man. And so that kind of is a perfect segue to kind of our last question of the night, so I want to hear your take on this. So what is more fun overall, playing the video game, especially with everything we just said, like living vicariously through it, or playing the actual sports, or what case, or if you're kind of on the line on both, make a case for either or, what would be more fun than the other?
Yeah. I think I'm pretty much in the middle on this one as well. I think for me personally, I think, I kind of sway in either direction. I, coming from an athletic background, enjoy, playing sports still. I think when I get to a point where that's no longer fun playing, or I'm just, my body's breaking down on me. I mean, my body already is broken down on me. Pretty much. I'm pretty athletic and everything, but I have so many injuries from high school football and baseball and all that stuff, that over the years kind of just took their toll. Just like people say, like, football is a violent sport or whatever, in the NFL, and people don't last that long if they played like, linebackers or whatever, running backs, because they just take a beating. And, it's just like that growing up, though. Like, you think about it, it's like, oh, it's not that they're taking a beating in the NFL. They're also taking a beating growing up. You start peewee, whether it be football, t-ball, whatever, and then you just kind of, go through your grades, the age groups, all that stuff. And, when you get to a certain point, your body's been through a lot at that point, so your body starts to break down, and then it's just not as fun, or maybe it's not as enjoyable anymore. Or maybe it might be still enjoyable to you, but your body just literally cannot keep up. So that's one of those things. I know a lot of people that really love playing sports, but their body is just so broken down, bad knees, bad back, bad arm, whatever it might be, that they just get frustrated because they can't do things that they once were able to do. But it's part of life. You get older, your body's going to break down if you've done certain things for so long that it just takes a wear and tear on your body. So for me, I personally, like, I actually enjoy playing all of the sports still. I do myself have a lot of injuries from sports, which limits what I used to be able to do. But being 10 plus years out of like super, super competitive high school sports and, JUCO sports as well, it's just, I know I can't do those things anymore. I've grown a little bit older now. My body shuts down, but I still have fun out there doing all those things. Which is why, like, right now I'm coaching baseball. I still enjoy the sport enough to go out there and coach. I am still able to go do things, show like techniques and all of that stuff. And I can still, I'm pretty mobile, move around faster than some of these kids out here in high school. So that's always a good sign. I'm still got some athleticism, beating out some of these high school kids. So, that's kind of the fun thing. So, coaching, definitely fun, keeps me in the sport, and really just is fun. And I can live in a way kind of vicariously through these kids I'm teaching and coaching as well, just to see like how much they improve, all of that. So it's just a different side of the sport once you get to the point where you're coaching and everything, versus playing. But on the flip side, like, also to the points I was just talking about, like, maybe you can't play anymore, or maybe you've just been a huge sports fan your entire life. The sport, better than most people, all that stuff, but maybe you just aren't athletic, or maybe you just didn't make it in certain sports, or maybe you just got too injured, or you suffered a career-ending injury, at an early age, or whatever that might be. And kind of talking about like my custom player and all those things, like, it allows you to play and live vicariously through a character in a video game, or, you play as your favorite team or whatever. And, it's just kind of fun, especially like with, soccer or football or baseball, whatever it might be. It's just fun to kind of take control of a team and do all those things, because it all, obviously puts some people to the test too. Some people, talk because they think they know the game better than anybody else. So they go do that, and then they're like, oh, well, it didn't work, or it works in a video game, and they're like, well, why didn't they do that in real life? And, you get those people. I was like, because it's not a video game. You can't just do 10 spin moves and get out of like 5 tackles kind of thing. It's real life. They kind of break down. They're not a computer or whatever. They don't dive at you kind of thing. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. I think I enjoy playing video games still. people might say like, well, I don't understand how you can play a sports video game. And I'm like, well, I don't understand how you can play a strategy game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love strategy video games and all that stuff, puzzle games. I'm kind of all over the board when it comes to video games. I play like pretty much any genre you can think of. But, you know, people will be like, well, why do you play the game? Why don't you just play the sport or da da da? And like, okay, well, why are you playing Monopoly online? You can play Monopoly in person on the board. I don't know. You know, it's one of those things. So
Yeah.
it's just however you want to enjoy it, honestly.
Right.
So for me, I'm definitely in the middle where like I definitely enjoy and have fun playing the sport. Um, I am lucky enough to where my body is still in a good position to go and play sports physically. Like I said, I've had a lot of injuries over the years, and my body has broken down to where I can't do the things I used to be able to do, which is a little frustrating because then you kind of think like, you know, there's some people out there that are like, I can do this. I can still do what I did when I was 18 years old, kind of thing. Sad reality, like most of the time you can't do it. Some of you still can, which is awesome, but a lot of us, you know, as we gain um, more years in our age bracket, the number that keeps going up, our body does break down a little bit. We don't heal as quickly as we used to. Our metabolism probably slowed down a lot. You know, it's one of those things. I used to eat crazy amounts of food at like 9 p.m. when I was playing sports, and I wouldn't gain a pound. If I even think about having like a bowl of ice cream at 9 p.m. now, I probably gain half a pound just by thinking of it. So it's just one of those things. It's kind of funny,
Facts.
funny
Yeah.
how that works. You know what I'm saying? It's just this life, but you know, that's how it is. So yeah, I enjoy playing sports in person, but I also enjoy playing sports in video games. I think it's fun to kind of play those things, and just it's also a mechanic for learning too. You know, just like kind of what I tell my students and kids when I coach too. Like it's like, hey, do you have a video game? Like, do you have a console at home? Like, yeah, we do. I'm like, do you play sports video games on your console? And you're like, yeah, we do. And I'm like, okay, so go home, play those games, and just watch the mechanics of like for baseball, like watch how they field the ball, watch how
Yeah.
they swing. And I'm like, you're literally exposing yourself to this every day that you're playing this game, but you're not putting it on the field, and you're
Right.
not taking what we're saying and like you're not, you know, translating essentially what we're saying into what you're doing. So like obviously we're telling you to go practice this stuff, but also just watch yourself playing the video game. Like obviously you're doing it mindlessly, but like take a second, watch what you're doing in the game or what your character is doing in the game. And you're like, oh, okay, there is some sort of technique here. I'm obviously controlling it, but like you're seeing the player move in a certain way or like swing a certain way or do whatever, catch a certain way. It's like, you know, it's just the small things like that. I'm like, yeah, if you don't want to go like practice or study like YouTube videos on how to throw or catch or do or whatever, like pay attention in the video game. There's mechanics in the video games. And nowadays, like these video games are so realistic that they put on like all the motion sensors on people, you know, when they make the game, and they go through all these motions and it tracks everything and puts it in the video game. So it's more realistic.
Yeah.
It's like, use that, look at it,
Right.
review it, whatever you might want to be. So it's also a good teaching tool.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You
That's a
know,
good point. Video games can definitely be like a mental simulation practice, teaching tools, like you said, for athletes. You're right. It's so realistic these days. You know, I mean, even back to, you know, to 2010s games, you know, it was still, the mechanics were still there. Not as realistic as games these days in the 2020s, but still, that's awesome, man. Any final thoughts on this?
um, you know, people might give you some crap or some, you know, whatever it might be. They might give you hard time for playing sports video games. You know, I know that's what we talked about today, but you know, play whatever the heck you want. if sports makes you happy, whether you play it in person or on a video game console in the virtual world, do it. If you find yourself on the realm of first-person shooters or like even Dungeons and Dragons on a virtual platform or a board game or whatever it might be, do it. It's one of those things. Don't let other people control your life in that regard. Like, it's one of those things. It does not matter. People get butthurt or like super upset when people call them out for some stupid stuff like, you play on easy mode, you're not a real gamer. I'm like, that's fine. I'm not trying to prove myself to the world that I'm a real gamer or anything like that. I'm not competitive. I play games to have fun. So get off my back. So I mean, that's probably like the only advice that I would give is just, I know today was talking about sports and all that thing. So just play whatever games you want and play it to have fun. Like if you don't have fun playing a game, then just try something else, whatever it is, go outside if you want. I don't know. Maybe if you're athletic and want to go outside, just go outside, whatever floats your boat, that's kind of what it is.
Right.
So I don't know. That's kind of my closing, I guess. I don't really have much to say.
Well, thanks, man.
Have fun. Have fun with it.
Yeah, no one to summarize it all. Thanks for all that, man. Thanks for all the input. In the end, like Tyler said, play whatever video game makes you happy, no matter what anyone says. That's not even just video games. Do what makes you happy in anything in real life. But to summarize today's episode, I mean, why do we play sports video games? I mean, Tyler said it best early in the episode. Sometimes it's just the fantasy of imagining yourself living vicariously through the game player that you created or your favorite player who can be like a hero to you in real life. And so you're just reliving the scenario that made you appreciate the sport, or whatnot. Right. And so overall, we play it just as a mental simulation, because it can be a practice for us too. It could be a blueprint for us too, for those who enjoy or love the sport, but maybe just might be as athletic. So kind of summarize the last point is like, what is more fun, video game or physical play? For most of us, it could be one or the other. Like for Tyler and I, we could both agree that it's 50-50. So, a case can be made for positives and negative can be made for both. For us, as we get older, sometimes our body and our metabolism isn't as great as it can be. So sometimes the physical real play sport may not be as fun as we get older, but we still enjoy it. We still play it, but maybe at a limited capacity. We got to watch out for our own personal injury, not overstrain ourselves. For video games, yeah, for those who are just geniuses, maybe they are a hidden gem who should be a coach, but maybe they might not be athletic. They could shine playing competitively in video games or whatnot and just really letting their mental athleticism go to work. So overall, and that summarizes today's episode. And as always, to end it, we challenge our listeners, start this mental exercise with yourself. Take this question. Think about why you play sports video games or why you play sports in general. Marinate over it, see how it applies to your own life. Run it by your friends and your family, over that bonfire and just discuss, have fun, laugh, learn from one another. But most importantly, always keep the dialogue going because that's how we all learn and grow. For us here at Our Stories, Your Legacy, we're going to keep on working on us, keep on doing these podcasts and try to improve every single week. So we appreciate y'all always listening and always giving us these questions. So as always, we'll see y'all next week. This is Our Stories, Your Legacy, and we are out.
Later.